A British Army instructor watched a Serbian soldier complete a 40-kilometer forced march with full combat load, broken ribs from a training accident 3 days earlier, and boots that had literally fallen apart at the 30-kilometer mark, and then volunteer for the next exercise starting 2 hours later. The instructor, a veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan who trained with elite forces across NATO, later admitted he'd never seen that level of raw physical and mental toughness from conscripts in any Western European military. And this wasn't an elite special forces operator. This was a regular Serbian infantryman doing what Serbian soldiers are simply expected to do. Because in Serbia, toughness isn't something you develop through carefully designed resilience programs and psychological support systems. It's something you inherit from a culture that's been fighting for survival for centuries and that produces warriors the way other nations produce accountants. Welcome to Doctrine of War, where we analyze the cultural and institutional factors that create military effectiveness beyond just technology and budgets. The question of why Serbian soldiers are tougher than Western European troops isn't about nationalism or ethnic superiority, it's about what combat experience, cultural values, institutional memory, and material conditions create in terms of warrior mindset and physical resilience. Today we're examining the specific factors that make Serbian military culture produce soldiers who can endure conditions that would break Western European forces, why this toughness matters more than expensive equipment in certain combat scenarios, and what Western militaries have lost in their transformation from warrior cultures to professional bureaucracies. And what you're about to discover is that comfort and safety, the hallmarks of advanced Western societies, are precisely what makes their militaries softer than forces from nations that never forgot what war actually costs. Combat experience and cultural memory, why hardship creates warriors. The fundamental difference between Serbian and Western European soldiers begins with proximity to actual war. Serbian soldiers, especially those above the age of 35, either fought in the Yugoslav Wars of the 1990s or grew up during those conflicts watching their nation torn apart, their cities bombed, their economy destroyed, and their people scattered as refugees. Even younger Serbian soldiers grew up in a society where virtually every family has members who fought, where the psychological and physical scars of war are visible in daily life, where economic hardship from war and sanctions created conditions that taught resilience through necessity. This isn't abstract military history learned from textbooks. This is lived experience that shapes how Serbians view conflict, sacrifice, and what soldiers must endure. Western European soldiers, by contrast, come from societies that have enjoyed 70-plus years of uninterrupted peace and prosperity. Germany hasn't fought an existential war since 1945. France's last major military crisis was Algeria in the 1960s. Britain's wars have been expeditionary operations in distant countries where the British homeland faced no threat. The Netherlands, Belgium, Scandinavia, entire generations have grown up without war touching their lives, without economic deprivation, without the kind of national trauma that forces societies to prioritize survival over comfort. This creates military forces composed of individuals who intellectually understand that war is dangerous but haven't experienced the visceral reality of what combat does to human beings and what it takes to survive when everything is collapsing around you. The cultural transmission of warrior values operates fundamentally differently in societies with recent combat experience versus those where war is abstract historical memory. Serbian fathers who fought in the 1990s raised sons with explicit lessons about what combat requires, the necessity of pushing through pain and fear, the importance of unit cohesion when everything depends on your brothers in arms, the reality that survival often comes down to who can endure more suffering than the enemy. These aren't lessons from classroom instruction or leadership development courses. These are survival skills passed from veterans to the next generation through family bonds and cultural expectation. Young Serbian men grow up knowing they're expected to be as tough as their fathers, that weakness is shameful, and that military service is opportunity to prove themselves in tradition that stretches back through Serbian history. Western European cultural transmission around military service has evolved in opposite direction. Societies that pride themselves on peace, social welfare, and humanitarian values transmit very different messages to young people. Military service is often viewed skeptically, as something less desirable than university or civilian careers. The values emphasized are professionalism, technical competence, and adherence to rules of engagement and international humanitarian law, all important for modern militaries, but very different from the warrior ethos that emphasizes toughness, aggression, and willingness to suffer for victory. Western European parents who've never experienced war don't pass down lessons about combat survival because they don't have those experiences to share. The cultural expectation is that military service should be safe, that training should avoid unnecessary risk. and that soldiers' well-being should be protected through comprehensive support systems. The economic conditions in Serbia create baseline toughness that Western European affluence eliminates. Serbian soldiers come from society where significant portions of population face economic hardship, where jobs are scarce, where many families struggle with basic necessities. This creates young men who are accustomed to discomfort, who've learned resourcefulness from growing up with limited means, who don't expect comfort as entitlement. Military service for Serbian soldiers often provides better conditions than civilian life: regular meals, steady pay, housing, purpose. This makes military hardship easier to endure because it's not dramatic departure from baseline existence but rather an improvement with the addition of weapons training and esprit de corps. Western European soldiers come from societies where material comfort is baseline expectation. These are young people who grew up with smartphones, central heating, abundant food, and social safety nets that ensure basic needs are met. Military service represents dramatic reduction in comfort, discipline, physical hardship, separation from civilian comforts, subordination to military hierarchy. The psychological adjustment required is enormous, and many Western European militaries struggle with recruitment and retention precisely because civilian life offers so much more comfort and freedom than military service. The gap between civilian baseline and military reality creates soldiers who experience military hardship as deprivation rather than manageable difficulty. If you're beginning to see why material conditions and cultural memory matter as much as training programs for creating tough soldiers, you're understanding the analysis that Doctrine of War delivers. We examine the cultural and institutional factors that shape military effectiveness beyond just hardware and tactics. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're about to analyze the specific training, selection, and institutional factors that make Serbian soldiers tougher than their Western European counterparts, and why this toughness provides operational advantages that expensive equipment can't replicate. The institutional memory of the Serbian military preserves and transmits lessons from combat in ways that peacetime Western European militaries simply cannot replicate. Serbian officers and NCOs include veterans who commanded troops in actual combat, who made life-or-death decisions under fire, who learned through experience what works and what gets people killed. These veterans train the next generation with authority and authenticity that classroom instructors can't match. When a Serbian sergeant tells recruits how to survive artillery bombardment, he's speaking from experience of living through 78 days of NATO bombing. When Serbian officers teach small unit tactics, they're drawing on operations conducted in the mountains of Kosovo or streets of Croatian towns. This institutional knowledge, maintained and transmitted through professional military education and unit traditions, creates forces trained by warriors rather than by bureaucrats. Western European militaries, despite some individual veterans from Iraq, Afghanistan, and other operations, lack the institutional depth of recent large-scale combat experience. Most Western European military operations in recent decades have been stabilization missions, peacekeeping, or counterinsurgency where the threat level, while real, was nothing like conventional combat against peer adversaries. The institutional knowledge is about conducting operations in permissive environments with overwhelming technological superiority and robust logistics, not about surviving when you're outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting for national survival. This shows in training. Western European forces train to very high standards for the operations they expect to conduct, but they don't train for the kind of existential warfare where toughness matters more than technological advantage. Training philosophy and institutional culture. Creating warriors versus managing professionals. The fundamental difference in training philosophy between Serbian and Western European militaries reveals why toughness outcomes diverge so dramatically. Serbian military training explicitly prioritizes developing physical and psychological resilience through hardship that pushes soldiers beyond comfortable limits. Training is designed to be difficult, painful, and stressful specifically because Serbian doctrine recognizes that combat is difficult, painful, and stressful, and that soldiers who haven't experienced and overcome those conditions in training will break when experiencing them in combat. This isn't sadism or hazing. It's a deliberate training methodology designed to create soldiers who know they can endure more than they thought possible because they've already done it in training. Western European military training has evolved toward risk aversion and safety prioritization that fundamentally limits how much hardship can be imposed during training. Every training activity undergoes risk assessment. Safety officers monitor exercises to ensure training stays within established safety parameters. There are mandated rest periods, limitations on environmental exposure, and comprehensive medical oversight that, while well-intentioned and reducing training injuries, also prevents the kind of extreme stress that develops the deepest reserves of mental and physical toughness. Western European forces train to high standards of tactical proficiency and technical competence, but they don't systematically push soldiers to their absolute breaking points because doing so involves risks that modern safety culture won't accept. The physical training standards illustrate this perfectly. Serbian military physical training emphasizes functional fitness gained through difficult physical labor, long-distance marching with heavy loads, obstacle courses designed to be genuinely difficult, hand-to-hand combat training that's full contact and occasionally results in injuries, and endurance events that push soldiers until they physically can't continue. The goal isn't just fitness, it's developing the mindset that your body can do more than your mind believes possible when pushed past normal limits. Serbian soldiers learn that pain is temporary and manageable, that exhaustion can be overcome through will, and that physical limitations are often psychological barriers that can be breached. Western European physical training standards have declined significantly in many armies, reflecting both changing warfare concepts and social changes in recruits. Many Western European militaries have reduced physical standards to improve recruitment of women and to avoid excluding candidates who can meet technical and educational requirements but struggle with physical demands. Physical training focuses more on injury prevention, sustainable fitness, and long-term health than on developing maximum physical capacity under stress. The result is soldiers who are fit for normal military duties but haven't developed the extreme physical resilience that comes from being pushed to absolute limits repeatedly. When Western European and Serbian soldiers encounter the same physically demanding situations, prolonged marching, operating for days without sleep, fighting while injured, the Serbian soldiers' training has prepared them for exactly that while Western European training hasn't. The mental toughness development follows similar patterns. Serbian training includes psychological stress deliberately designed to test whether soldiers can maintain function when exhausted, scared, uncomfortable, and uncertain. Exercises include sleep deprivation, food restriction, realistic combat simulations with pyrotechnics and simulated casualties, and deliberately stressful scenarios where correct answers aren't obvious and where instructors apply psychological pressure. The goal is identifying who breaks under stress and weeding them out while simultaneously teaching survivors that they're capable of functioning effectively even when conditions are terrible. This creates soldiers with realistic understanding of their own capabilities and limitations under extreme stress. Western European mental resilience training increasingly emphasizes psychological support systems, stress management techniques, and ensuring that training stress doesn't create mental health problems. This reflects laudable concern for soldier welfare but also creates forces that expect psychological support to be available when combat stress becomes severe. Serbian soldiers are taught to expect no support, to rely on themselves and their unit, and to simply endure whatever comes because external support systems might not exist when you need them. This fundamental difference in expectation creates very different outcomes when soldiers face extreme stress. Western European soldiers trained to use support systems struggle when those systems aren't available, while Serbian soldiers trained to rely only on themselves continue functioning. The selection processes further differentiate how the two military cultures create or eliminate toughness. Serbian military selection explicitly tests for mental and physical toughness, with the understanding that technical skills can be taught but fundamental character and resilience either exist or they don't. Candidates who demonstrate toughness but lack technical knowledge are seen as better raw material than technically proficient candidates who lack warrior spirit. This selection priority means Serbian forces continuously select for toughness at every stage. Basic training eliminates the weak, advanced training eliminates more, and elite unit selection is brutally uncompromising about accepting only those who demonstrate exceptional toughness. The result is forces where the average soldier possesses mental and physical resilience that would be exceptional in Western European militaries. Western European selection, influenced by political pressures around diversity and inclusion, increasingly prioritizes cognitive ability, education, and technical aptitude while de-emphasizing physical and mental toughness. Many Western European militaries have eliminated or reduced selection criteria around physical capacity to improve recruitment of women and to avoid disparate impact on certain demographic groups. The goal is building diverse, educated professional forces that reflect broader society. A legitimate social objective but one that inherently conflicts with selecting primarily for warrior attributes. The result is forces with excellent technical and cognitive capabilities but less consistent mental and physical toughness compared to militaries that select primarily for warrior attributes. The organizational culture around complaints and grievances reveals fundamental differences in expectations. Serbian military culture emphasizes that soldiers are expected to endure hardship without complaint, that showing weakness is shameful, and that resolving problems happens within the unit through informal mechanisms rather than formal grievance procedures. This creates peer pressure toward toughness where soldiers compete to demonstrate resilience rather than seeking accommodation for difficulties. Western European militaries, reflecting broader social movements around worker rights and welfare, have formal grievance procedures, ombudsmen, and external oversight that allows soldiers to appeal training demands they consider excessive or unfair. This institutionalizes the message that if training is too hard, there are mechanisms to reduce demands rather than the expectation that soldiers should rise to meet demands. The ultimate expression of these different philosophies appears in how each military culture views casualties and risk. Serbian military culture accepts that training should be demanding enough that some injuries occur, that combat operations will produce casualties, and that mission accomplishment may require accepting losses that Western European militaries would consider unacceptable. This isn't callousness, it's realism about warfare shaped by experience of actual combat where achieving objectives required accepting casualties. Western European militaries, operating in societies with very low risk tolerance and where every military death produces political controversy, prioritize force protection sometimes to the point where mission accomplishment becomes secondary to avoiding casualties. This risk aversion permeates training and operations, creating forces where soldiers haven't been psychologically prepared to accept casualties as an inevitable cost of warfare. The operational implications of these toughness differences are significant in specific combat scenarios. In sustained high-intensity combat where forces must operate continuously for days or weeks with limited rest, inadequate supplies, and constant danger, Serbian soldiers' training and cultural background provides advantages that Western European technological superiority doesn't offset. When logistics break down and forces must continue operating with limited food and water, when medical evacuation isn't available and wounded soldiers must continue fighting, when command and control is disrupted and small units must operate independently, these are exactly the scenarios where mental and physical toughness determines outcomes more than technology or training quality. Serbian forces are trained, selected, and culturally conditioned for exactly these conditions. Western European forces are optimized for operations where technological superiority and robust logistics ensure those conditions don't occur. That's the analysis for today on Doctrine of War. If this examination of how culture, training, and institutional values shape military toughness gives you a new understanding of what creates effective soldiers beyond just equipment and tactics, let us know in the comments. Do you think Western European militaries could recreate Serbian-level toughness if they wanted to? Is toughness still relevant in an age of precision weapons and technology dominance?